Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League issue 19, the Sixth Dimension. We're finally getting into the Sixth Dimension. We are slowly starting to be told what these 7 forces are that make up the negative side of the DC universe. Apparently we've been told 5. Now I'm not sure I could name all the 5, so I had to actually go back and look it all up again. And as far as I can piece together, these are the 5. We have the Still Force, which is the opposite of the Speed Force. That's one. Second one, we have the Invisible Emotional Spectrum, represented by the Ultraviolet Core, ran by Sinestro. And then we have the third one, represented by the Tear of Extinction. And the fourth force, negative force, I believe, has to do with the Graveyard of the Gods. As far as I can tell, the fifth force is that of the imagination juxtaposed against the power of the sixth dimension. So we've got the fifth dimension being one of the 7 positive forces, and the sixth dimension being more of the negative one, and the sixth dimension, as it's revealed in this issue, is where Perpetua go, the World Forger, the Monitor, and the Anti-Monitor go to basically be reborn if they ever die. So that leaves 2 forces that we're unaware of, and we're apparently, based upon previous issues, we believe that the remaining 2 forces, one has to do with knowledge, and the other one has to do with a kind of protective force that apparently was released when the source wall broke down. But we still don't know what that is. Perhaps the 7th force is Perpetua herself. We don't know. But again, those 5 forces that we know so far seem to be Still Force, the Invisible Emotional Spectrum, the Tear of Extinction, the Graveyard of the Gods, and the Sixth Dimension, as far as I can tell. If I'm wrong about any of those guys, please correct me, because I might be. But that's what I've been able to put together. But this issue here has to do with the Justice League getting Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk? Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mr. I don't know how to say it. I've never known how to say it. He's that imp from the 5th dimension. He's the imp from the 5th dimension. But the Justice League call upon him because Kendra's wings, which contain a map to the 5th dimension, as far as which was revealed to them again in all the lead up here to the Justice League Annual #1, it was Shara Hall, the other Hawk woman, revealed to Kendra that her wings are special, not only because they're made of nth metal, but also because they contain a map to the multiverse and seemingly a map to the 5th dimension. So now who knows the 5th dimension better than the imp who's from the 5th dimension, and that's Mr. Mxyzptlk. Or Mr. Mxyzptlk. I'm going to call him Mxyzptlk. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. I've never said it right, and I've never spoken to 3 guys or 4 or 5 guys, women, whatever, who've all pronounced it the same way. I've got no idea. But it is what it is. Mr. Mxyzptlk. They contact him. They bring him into Earth. They bring him into our dimension, where he basically wreaks some havoc between Metropolis, and there's some interesting, beautifully drawn scenes by Jorge Jimenez, who does of Metropolis attacking Gotham City, or the city eating itself and attacking itself. Really beautifully drawn, absolutely beautiful drawn issue, and I'll be showing pictures of it as, of course, I'm doing this review. But they want to talk to Mr. Mxyzptlk because they want to figure out, what is it about the 5th dimension that is important, because they believe they need to find the remaining 2 forces, because they know that Legion of Doom has the 5 forces that I previously talked about. And if they get the remaining 2, well, then they're screwed. Not only that, not only does the Legion of Doom have the 5 forces, but they also have Perpetua in a coma. They want to obtain all 7 of the forces and then resurrect Perpetua. Now, in Mr. Miss blah, 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 blah. See, I probably said it better. Mr. Mxyzptlk talks about the 5 dimensions, and he says he's from the 5th dimension, but I just want to go through what he says the first 4 dimensions are. The first dimension is, this is probably basic math, but I just want to get this right. The first dimension is a simple point. The second dimension is a line. A third dimension is material stuff. The fourth dimension is time. And the 5th dimension is imagination. And it's everywhere all at once. And apparently what happened when the source wall broke is that imagination went wild, including the imagination that is associated with fear. People's fear began to go wild, and so they began to imagine more incredibly fearful things, and apparently that made it very difficult for the imps in the 5th dimension to really catch up, and they're running ragged, and the fifth dimension is slowly being destroyed apparently because the source wall broke down and the imagination is running wild. And Mr. Mxyzptlk did mention a particular word that powers the fifth dimension, that they're running out of some form of energy that powers them, but he didn't build upon that particular statement. But what he did say, he did tell them about the sixth dimension, and the sixth dimension exists outside of space and time. And here's where artist Jorge Jimenez's talents really shine through. There is a page here that is absolutely gorgeous, and it shows really the orrery of worlds. It shows really the multiverse, and it shows the sixth dimension. It shows within this you see Perpetua. You see Perpetua above this globe, and you see the anti-monitor and the monitor on the sides. You see there's a beautifully rendered picture on the top left of Mr. Mxyzptlk holding the map of the multiverse, which of course we originally saw in Grant Morrison's Multiversity. And he really sort of explains things that when you imagination exists outside of space and time, that's the fifth dimension, and imagination is the blood of the multiverse, the energy that flows between the realms. But there's a sixth realm, and at the very tip top of everything, closed off to all of the most powerful beings, and the most powerful beings, of course, being Perpetua and her children, the Monitor and Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger. And the best way to describe it, Mr. Mxyzptlk says, is to basically think of it as the multiverse's control room. So the sixth dimension controls the other dimensions. It's a realm for things beyond the imagination of almost all living beings. It's a realm of the impossible where the multiverse was designed and set in motion. And then he references only 4 beings that could exist there, and that being the Monitor, Anti-Monitor, World Forger, and Perpetua. When they're destroyed, when the World Forger, Perpetua, Anti-Monitor, and Monitor, if any of them are ever destroyed, sometimes they reform in the sixth dimension, which is likely what the World Forger did after their battle in the pages of metal. And it might be the only place that the Justice League can get to stop Perpetua, or to obtain forces, or obtain something, some kind of force, whatever exists in the sixth dimension. They want to travel there, hopefully to be able to find something that they can use to battle Perpetua, because it stands to reason that if the sixth dimension is a place where beings like Perpetua and the Monitor and Anti-Monitor and the World Forger can actually be born, perhaps it's also a place that you can find something to kill them. So that's the logic used. And of course, it's very dangerous going into the sixth dimension, but that is ultimately what the Justice League feel that they need to do. But Mr. Mxyzptlk tells him that, look, the only person he knows of that could possibly even survive the sixth dimension would be Superman himself. And Superman, of course, does ultimately go to the sixth dimension, only to ultimately return as a much older man, but a very distinguished, pretty cool-looking guy. Again, beautiful art by Jorge Jimenez. And it would appear that on the surface, it looks as if he does find a group of, I guess, older Justice Leaguers. Perhaps it's the older version of the Justice League in the future. He does find forces that they could use to defeat the Legion of Doom and to win the day. It ends with an older Superman telling Bruce that we won, now come inside the sixth dimension, that is, and let me tell you the story of how we saved everything. Very interesting. Now, there's some misdirection going on here, because at the same time, while that's revealed, it's also revealed that apparently maybe Superman, that's not Superman. That Superman apparently, when he thought he was entering the sixth dimension, he entered something else. Because it looks like there's another, it looks like our Superman actually entered a much darker place, where it looks like he entered hell that's been dead for thousands of years. And of course it's a very, very upsetting scene, a very horrific scene. It's just literally filled with darkness that he tries to light up with a burst of his heat vision, but he's terrified, he's upset. It can't end this way, he says. It can't end this way. And so that leads to the question, of course, who is this future Superman if it's not the Superman we know and love? And of course, that's why we'll have to wait next issue to find out. Overall, guys, this was a really good issue. I quite enjoyed it. It really whet the appetite. We're getting more information. I really like the exposition here. Scott Snyder is getting better and better at explaining the complexities of this storyline. Perhaps that's because so much has been revealed in the previous 19 issues. So he's had a lot of practice, him and his trade-off with James Tynion IV. This is just well done. I really like how everything is starting to pay off. All of the adventures, all of the information that we've been getting is starting to pay off. I'm still a little bit confused about the 5 forces. I told you what I think they are. I really wish we could still get more clarity as to what they are. I think that might come in a future issue, but really we should have that now. The double-page spread here with Mr. Mxyzptlk and the Justice League surrounding what looks like the Orrery of Worlds with Perpetua and the Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and World Forger, that looks absolutely gorgeous. And the way it's all explained about the 5th and the 6th dimensions, absolutely beautiful. I got to give a shout out to Jorge Jimenez on Twitter. He said that it took him 4 days to do this double page spread. 4 days, and boy, you can really see why it did. It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, it's just great. I mean, just looking all around the detail. I mean, as a comic book reader and as a lover of DC history, to see it all come together like this and Scott Snyder weaving this story, the complexities of it, simplifying it as best that he can. He's doing an admirable job here. I'm very happy with this. I'm very happy with this, and I'm so looking forward to the next issue to find out who this future Superman is. So Scott Snyder, you did a real good job with this issue. Jorge Jimenez, you did a really good job with the art. Congratulations. And a shout out to Alejandro Sanchez, who does the art. Really good stuff here. Guys, tell me what you think of Justice League number 19. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.